Welcome, everyone, to Couch Potato Theater, where we celebrate our favorite movies here on the Fandom Podcast Network. And this year, we're celebrating 1980s canon film action films with a retrospective on how important these movies were in our fandom then, and of course, the nostalgic grasp that they still have on us today. And on this episode, we're going to discuss Chuck Norris's cult classic, Invasion USA. We're really excited. We're going to get into that there. It's celebrating its 40th anniversary as of this recording. Came out in 1985. This is Couch Potato Theater on the Fandom Podcast Network. And if you guys can, if you're watching the video, we appreciate that. Please subscribe to the Fandom Podcast Network so you get notifications. Appreciate that. Hit the QR code there on the video. Will take us to our website. You can support us there and hit all of our audio podcasts there under the Fandom Podcast Network umbrella. And as I mentioned, we are talking about 1985's Chuck Norris Invasion USA. And we are celebrating canon films this year. We've picked technically 6, but actually it's 7 films because we did a double feature on American Ninja 1 and 2. We'll get in that in a moment. But I did want to mention I'm wearing my Chuck Norris Sleep Tight Sucker, the Delta Force t-shirt. Yes, this isn't a Invasion USA shirt. I would, but when you go to Walmart and they have these like double VHS looking boxes and they have a t-shirt that says Delta Force in it, you got to pick it up, right? Invasion USA. Let's go ahead and bring in our host for this. With me, as always, is a co-founder of the Fandom Podcast Network. Please welcome Mr. Kyle Wagner. What's up, buddy?
I'm a little disappointed in you, Kevin. You wouldn't let me order law rockets for this podcast, and I'm really not happy about it.
They're a little harder to get, and I just wanted to kind of just, not get you in trouble with Homeland Security.
I sent you that 80s military surplus link. Come on now.
Well, also invading USA with us today is, of course, the queen of movie foo and one of our co-hosts for this. First of all, for Time Warp, if you haven't checked out Time Warp, where we celebrate a whole year of movies and entertainment, but also our co-host for these wonderful look back on canon 80s film. Please welcome the queen of movie foo, Lacey Pants. What's up, Lacey?
Hello, hello, hello. Not a lot. Gonna talk about some Invasion USA. It's gonna be fun. A little bit of Chuck Norris for the morning time. Well,
Chuck Norris is one of those people that we definitely had to get in on this, guys. And we had a lot to consider here. But, recently here on the Fandom Podcast Network and Couch Potato Theater, we have been celebrating the, 1980s film, I guess some of our favorites of canon films. And we already did talk about a Chuck Norris film. Lacey, this was your pick, of course. You chose Firewalker. We also have others that we have already done, like we did the double feature of American Ninja 1 and 2, Firewalker. We just recently wrapped up Cobra. There was some pizza cutting and eating there. Just want to let you guys know. And coming up after Invasion USA, we have on the docket, we got Bloodsport and, of course, Masters of the Universe. So yeah, I know there was a few on the docket that we did not bring up, but we narrowed it down. Kyle, is there one that we should have done that you really, really wish we should have when it comes to canon? Or what about you, Lacey? What do you guys think?
You got mine, right? Like, seriously, Digstown is the one. I mean, not Digstown, sorry. Different Firewalkers, sorry.
Firewalker.
I'm in a weird Lewis Gossett.
We were having a discussion about Digstown. That's okay. That was good. Yeah. But Kyle, is there one that you wish that was on the docket that's not? I think I know the answer, but
I'm personally a fan of Over the Top, but Kevin wouldn't meet me halfway across the sky about it. So
I'm not a fan of that movie. Lacey,
I will do Over the Top with you, Kyle. I will pod Over the Top.
But you don't understand. I was gonna, much like in Over the Top, whoever's Coke would be on that with me has to drink motor oil like the guy did in the arm wrestling competition.
Yeah, I'll let you guys do that by yourself, but I'm just not a fan of that movie. So, but who is a fan of Invasion USA are people that go to Dragon Con. And when I put a list on social media about that we're watching Invasion USA on Couch Potato Theater, I had some good friends of mine comment about it. And I just want to showcase my good friend Keith Mandeville. He is one of my friends in the G.I. Joe costume group. Also a frequent visitor of Dragon Con. And this guy back in 2024 dressed up as Chuck Norris of Invasion USA. I gotta say that's a pretty good version there, although I think his pants are a little too loose. But I am going to give him full on credit because he's got the hair down. He's got the double Uzis. If you're watching the video, please note that. If you're listening to the podcast, please check out the video. This is pretty impressive. What do you guys think, Lacey?
Okay, it's Dragon Con. You cannot wear the tight jeans to Dragon Con. You won't survive. It's 89 degrees in Atlanta with tight jeans like that. I don't even have that kind of business going on in my pants, and I know that would be uncomfortable in 89-degree weather in Atlanta, Georgia. Absolutely.
Kyle, thoughts? Does Lacey have a point here?
Well, all I'm going to say is the American version of the Canadian tuxedo in Georgia that time of year, chafing is an issue.
Well, there's times that you wear that costume. There's AM, early PM, and late PM costumes. This is a late PM costumes. I'm saying get tighter with the pants. Otherwise, you killed it.
Okay, I challenge you then the next time you come to Dragon Con, you can wear the tighty pants and see how you feel about it.
I've been in that situation, Lacey. I've also done the Dragon Con midday or early the test midday full on costume in the parade. So I know how it feels. I'm just saying it would have done it. So real quick, I want to mention some other comments because I posted this on social media and, we got some people saying, they've seen it and they like it. And our good friend Blair Hiscock from Brisbane, Australia, a good friend of mine, good physical media collector. He would probably die of fandom in your room there, Lacey. He says, saw it at a local drive-in upon release, along with Missing in Action as a $5 double feature.
Oh, wow.
Sadly, no Blu-ray here in Oz, Australia, so he'd have to go outside of Australia to get it. William J, he's also part of my G.I. Joe fan club and also a huge Star Trek fan and big cosplayer. He says, this is my favorite Chuck Norris movie. And I was saying before we started replying, when it comes to me, my top 3 Chuck Norris films are probably this one, The Octagon, and then maybe Lone Wolf McQuade tied with... what's the cop one that he did? Code of Silence. But right now, I feel like this one's my favorite right now for reasons that we'll get into. Steve Unger says, one of my favorites, Rostov, Time to Die. And my friend Kevin Cranberry, who's a big Raiders fan with me, says, very good movie. Chuck Norris at his baddest best. Donald Mosley says, when they shot the scenes at the South DeKalb Mall, me and my family were inside the Woolworth store on the bottom level. Nice. Donald has got some ties to movies and stuff. I love his take, so that's really cool. We'll talk more about that later. My Australian friend, very enjoyable, he says. He's also a big G.I. Joe fan, so there we go. We got some of the fan takes. So anyway, I just want to give props to whoever did this costume for, first of all, doing it, because that's what's wonderful, Lacey, about Dragon Con is you see these weird one-off, someone always gets it costume. Not everyone does. Yep. But this one here, I'm sure he was. I'm sure he got stopped for a lot of pictures. So yeah.
Oh yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Well, guys, let's get into the main part of the show. We got some stuff to talk about. All right, let's go ahead. This is the movie discussion time, and big question. Okay, what does canon films mean to you guys? We've already answered this with our other questions, but I just wonder if there's something else that popped up to you regarding canon films. Kyle, I'm going to start with you.
Absolute utter chaos. That's what canon film. If I see canon films on there, it's just going to be absolute utter chaos.
It's funny you say that, Kyle, because the more stuff and the more behind the scenes we've been doing covering these things. That is very well said. Lacey, is there a new perspective when it comes to canon films that's popped up that you haven't discussed yet?
The one thing I will say as I'm rewatching some of these, because I watched most of these in the 80s, when it was like when the audiences when things were dumbed down for audiences, right? Nowadays, you jump in the middle of something, you just catch up, which is something that filmmakers know that their audiences are intelligent and they don't try and spoon feed you anymore, which is great. But I've noticed we're just talking about lots of action, lots of, guns, and then potentially some like boobs or bikinis at some point. Very little plot line.
Very little character development too.
Yeah, and very little character embellishments. Yeah. So and like, if that's your thing, it's totally cool. I'm in. Like, we're good. Like, I know there are a lot of people who are like, oh my God, why? And I'm like, because if you don't get it, you don't get it.
Gotcha. Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
So yeah.
All right. Well, as I mentioned, this is Couch Potato Theater, Canon Films Retrospective, 80s films. We got a lot to get into. One of the fun things we like to do is the IMDb possibly vague and not always spot on plot description, or as Lacey's reminded us, the elevator pitch. The elevator pitch to this one is a one-man army comes to the rescue when the United States are invaded by communists. That's pretty straight to the point. But for a more longer version with more context, in case you need a reminder of this, that is a terrorist, Rostov, is planning to unleash a reign of terror in the U.S. But before he does, he decides to go after Matt Hunter. Big stupid decision there. A former CIA agent who lives in Florida. Hunter once had Rostov lives in his hands, but on orders took him alive. And now Rostov is plagued by nightmares of Hunter killing him. So Rostov goes after him, but misses. Hunter, who has already been approached by his former employees to go after Rostov, after initially turning down the job because he believed that they should have let him terminate Rostov when he had the chance, decides to go after him. But he is only one man, and Rostov has hundreds of men ripping the country apart. So how will he stop them? That's pretty good. I like that one. A little more meat to the bone there. There you go. So when it comes to canon and budgets, guys, we know they're pretty tight. They fly by the seat of their pants when it comes to stuff. And this movie was released September 27th, 1985. The running time of about an hour and 47 minutes, a budget of $12 million, had a box office in the U.S. of 17.5, but an overall take of 24 million over worldwide. So it made money, obviously, doubled its budget there. And it debuted at number one at the box office with 6.9 million. And so it obviously was a hit overseas. So with some production notes I thought were very interesting, guys. The film was the first in a 6-film contract Chuck Norris signed with Canon Films, following the success of the Missing in Action films. Norris said he got the idea to make the film after reading an article in Reader's Digest that said hundreds of terrorists were running loose in the United States. Quote, he says, "I thought, boy, that's scary," he says. "What if some guy on the order of Khomeini or Gaddafi mobilized those guys and started sending them out in every major city?" He continues, "I know it's going to happen. And even in the movie, the head terrorist says, quote, it's so easy because of the freedom of the movement in this country. So we're really accessible to this. The movie is not meant to scare people, but to make people aware of this potential problem. Quote, we're trying to make a statement here," he added. "This is about the people of the United States." Wow. Kind of rings a little bit home there, guys. Any thoughts on that?
It's an interesting thing because of just what the mindset was then compared to what it is now as we're recording this podcast. But the truth of it is, it's kind of always been an underlying thing. It feels like since the 70s and 80s of a possible terrorist threat, and we've seen it happen. So I think it's kind of interesting. He was maybe just a little bit ahead of the reality curve here when he made this.
Well, and it's really interesting watching a movie where tanks and helicopters are, in the U.S. streets because, Chicago yesterday.
Yeah. It was kind of foretelling incidents that were going to happen to us, and of course, what happened in 9/11. Yeah. It's makes you think. It's interesting too because I was having flashbacks to like Red Dawn. Red Dawn had come out a year earlier, obviously. So there was this Cold War threat that was going on. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in the trivia because there's another movie I want to bring up. But I want to ask you guys, and for the listeners and viewers out there, let us know what you think. Where and when did you originally see this? Did you see it when it originally came out? Did you see it on streaming, physical media recently? How did you guys watch this recently? Kyle, start with you.
As far as recently, it was on streaming. I watched the digital version of it. When I saw it originally, it was actually on VHS. It was a Blockbuster night movie rental. Saw it that way originally, and then of course later on it was a constant cable rotation movie for a good while throughout the rest of the 80s and early 90s.
What about you, Lacey? Where'd you see it originally?
Well, originally it was probably on TBS. you know, like, one of those like Friday Madness movies, or maybe like the Saturday marathons that they used to do. They'd pick an action star and do like 6 movies or 4 movies.
Right.
This recently, I realized that when we got ready to do some of these, I realized that my VHS collection that I had sold off to move to Los Angeles a million years ago, I did not have a replacement. So I actually had to purchase a DVD because the Blu-ray is like stupid expensive. I was like, Invasion USA Blu-ray was like $39. I was like, I'm gonna get me a little $8 DVD.
It's funny you say. It's funny you say that because, well, let me go back to how I originally saw this. I did not see this in the theater. I caught it. I feel like I caught it on TV first before VHS, kind of like what you said, Lacey.
Yeah, same.
Because they were always showcasing. They were showcasing a heavily edited version as well, of course, which, they show all the good stuff except for some bloody. But then I definitely got it on VHS, or I might have copied it. I can't remember, but I'm sure I had it as a double feature with something else when we had our double feature talks on VHS.
Come on, it was Adam Mission in Action on the same VHS.
Yeah, but I might have had Mission Action 1 and 2. I wasn't a big fan of 3, but so I feel like it might have been with another Chuck Norris film, whether it was The Octagon or Lone Wolf McQuade, because I was anal enough back then as I am now to try to either stick to the same action star on the same tape or a related film or something. But you're probably right. It was somewhere right around in there, for me. And then, of course, VHS for the longest. And then for the longest until recently, I've had it on this DVD right here because that was really the best way to find it over the longest time. But I did find a Shout Factory version on Blu-ray. I don't think it was new. I think I bought it used, which is why I got it a little bit cheaper. Because you're right, Lacey, brand new, they're not cheap. And I got lucky. I think I did buy it now for around $20. And then, of course, the old Lacey trick of doing the two Blu-ray, Blu-ray and DVD combo. When you buy those, I did that. I upgraded to the Blu-ray from the DVD, and right now I have the Blu-ray playing.
But the funny thing is, when I combo my Blu-rays and DVDs, I actually throw away the sheet, right? And I just use the boxes if I break one. I have like a box.
I do the same. I'm just keeping this one for the podcast for now.
Okay.
But I got to tell you, if it didn't have this classic pose, I would get rid of. Sometimes I'll put, like, if I like the DVD better, I'll cut it down to fit over the Blu-ray. But it has the classic, 2 Uzis shooting thing. But I will not be keeping the DVD version. I will be keeping the case like you do and recycle in case they break. But for the podcast, I wanted to showcase it. So
Nice.
And then there's some special features on here which I'm going to bring up later. But there is I did want to showcase here on YouTube is I love bringing up the old newspaper ads. As you can see in this double newspaper, I'm not sure what publication this was, but they went big. Canon always goes big on showcasing the films and the movies, and that was a really good one there. And of course, this was the original VHS copy. I remember, and it says Canon right up there.
So big, they were so ridiculous, and you had to like adjust.
You're talking about the hard shell ones, right?
Yeah. No, just like that. The one they were, it was still a larger, because when you open it up, it had a 1/2 inch and 1 inch around the top, because it was one of those ones that like sat in the.
Yes, the larger like the
inside.
Disney Puffy releases, right?
Yeah, kind of. But these were cardboard. They were very inexpensive. They didn't hold together well. And when you had one of these on the shelf, you had to, at Blockbuster, clarification. When you had one of these on the Blockbuster shelves, you'd have to adjust the height of the shelf if it was alphabetically on the wrong shelf, if it wasn't on the top shelf.
I know what you're saying.
We were crazy doing backwards somersaults trying to figure out how to make Chuck Norris movies and Canon movies go on the top shelf so that we wouldn't have to adjust.
That's so funny. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing those. They were larger cassette. Yeah, wow. Totally.
The Disney ones were easy because they were all the same. So you would just have a section for Disney and that was great. But when these middle of your action section was just like chaos.
Yeah, no, totally. That's a really good point. So I did find that in France, they released this super edition of Invasion USA. I considered getting it, but the cheapest one was like $55 plus shipping. If you're looking at the ad here, it was actually tough to find a good high res picture because most of them are bad. But France released this a while ago, and it looks like one of those oversized VHS containers, Lacey. And it has the Blu-ray. It looks like a VHS and then you open it up. It's got 2 discs in there. It's also got a little KO karate magazine looking thing. It's got a little Chuck Norris standee, a little tiny cardboard one, some pictures of the cast and stuff like that. It's a pretty cool selection. It's called the VHS Box Edition Retro Collectors Limit. So you get 2 Blu-rays, you get a Blu-ray, DVD, poster, 10 photos, and stuff. So I didn't get it. Plus, obviously, I don't know if it's all region. I didn't look into that, but it's pretty impressive. It really is. But I'm just sticking with the Blu-ray for right now. So
that's actually an ABC region. So it's ABC. It just won't play in Australia.
Okay, good. Well, the one that I tried to get, but I had limits on how much I wanted to spend for it, was they have a new 4K Chuck Norris release on this. And the Blu-ray is the one I have here in my hand. If you're looking at the video here, you have the Blu-ray and then the 4K. But I couldn't get it for around $20, $25. It was always going for like $35 in shipping elsewhere. And I was looking at the special features. I'm like, okay, but I him and hawed. I bid on some stuff, but I kept getting outbid. And I'm like, I'm not going to do a bite now for $35 for the 4K. I'm going to wait on this one.
Well, and realistically, and I'm not trying to, because I got the China O'Briens. I got both the China O'Briens on the 4K, and that might be the last low budget 80s film that I buy in 4K, because the quality of 4K, unless it's got like amazing special features with like new stuff, there's not a reason, because the sound quality is not as good as you want it to be on a 4K. The blacks and the shadows, 4K, for those, they blend, they kind of smudge together, they don't pop as well.
I agree. I find that the Blu-ray that I have is a good one there. Kyle's like, I just got digital, screw you guys. So yeah.
Well, now Kyle, when you watch the digital, was it a 4K digital? Was it regular?
It was regular. It was regular.
Okay.
I haven't bought this movie off of iTunes, and I don't believe they have the 4K yet available on iTunes.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, when it comes to buying 4K, I'm in if it's going to be the value of 4K.
Exactly. And special features do matter. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I did want to mention that in the next part of the discussion here, the movie discussion, before we get to the reviews here, is that the 40th anniversary, of course, they did release, it occurred this year, of course, and of course they have the 4K Ultra Blu-ray, which was released in May of 2024. Film Retrospective podcast covered the movie as part of its 40th anniversary. There's some anniversary articles out there. I tried finding a really good article that was celebrating the 40th anniversary of this movie. Well, I couldn't find it. I'm just like, there was just more stuff about, the, I guess you could say that the releases were out. That's it. But they didn't really do a deep dive. But I did find a 30th anniversary article, which I thought was meant noticing. And this is on the actionlight.com, Invasion USA 30 years later. So that was 10 years ago, but it's still relevant here. It says, the article goes on to say, it's hard to believe that this Chuck Norris classic is in my personal favorite film that is 30 years old. Just throw in 40 now. Technically, this film's birthday is September 1st this year, but frankly, I'm too excited, so I'm writing this now. The story of this movie is pretty absurd, that it's really what it is awesome. It's about a retired CIA agent, and he goes in to talk about, the plot a little bit there. But then he says, watching the movie now, sure, it's cheesy, but the action remains first rate with punch-ups, shootouts, and explosions galore. I sometimes forget how violent it is as well. The late Richard Lynch is pretty creepy as the villain Rostov, who is quite terrified of Matt Hunter. He pretty much knows that Matt Hunter will be the man that kills him, and it's only a matter of time before they meet face-to-face again. A particularly brutal scene involved Rostov shooting a guy multiple times in the balls, which just isn't cricket. It's utterly psychotic, and the final showdown will be legendary. The climactic scene involved real tanks and was one of the best action sequences of the 80s. There was a real sense of scale to which you could see today, unless it was all CG. Initially, bad guy for hire Steven Berkoff was wanted to play Rostov, but he allegedly turned it down to its violence. This is the villain in Beverly Hills Cop, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
that turned down the villain for this. This didn't stop him from starring in Rambo First Blood Part 2 or We Still Kill the Old Way. I'm pretty sure there were other reasons why he didn't take this role. Writer goes on to say there's many awesome moments in this movie with Matt Hunter eliminating bad guys in imaginative ways. And he mentions his favorite here, and I'm going to showcase this picture here. My favorite moment, Matt using the terrorist bomb that was meant for the church against them by saying, "Didn't work, huh? Now it will." Throws a suitcase bomb in, touches the wires, and then boom. It's just another great action hero moment, as it also has some rather impressive stunt work too. So after 30 years, Invasion USA is still one of my top movies with Chuck Norris on top form. A classic movie villain in Rostov and explosive action, which still stands up despite being a tad cheesy. So I go to you guys. Let's start with you here, Kyle. Of what the scenes that he was making here. One of the things that stands out to me in the article was how violent this movie actually is. We'll mention a couple of death scenes and our favorite death scenes later. So if it kind of pops on those, just keep that in bay because we're going to cover death scenes. Kyle, your thoughts on this guy's article and you revisiting this film. I don't know when it was the last time that you watched it. I watched it maybe 2 years ago, and it still kind of shocks me how violent this movie actually is.
So this movie is incredibly violent, and it had been a while since I watched it, but I remembered how violent it was. What's interesting too, and I was going to say this for hot takes, but I feel like this is a good time to bring this up. In interviews, Chuck Norris has said in the aftermath of rewatching this film, they went too far. And if you kind of look at Chuck Norris's filmography after this, you can tell he starts toning it down a little bit. You know,
he does. Yeah.
And
right.
I think this was the movie that kind of made him change his retrospective on how violent his movies got. And now, you know, I mean, it was a reason why he was delayed on coming onto the Expendables for so long, because he didn't want to do that extreme violence. And I think this going back and after he had done this movie and really looking at the edit of it and everything like that, it really gave him a change of heart of things he did in his films.
Do you think that in addition to this film of what Canon Films was doing, maybe it was something that he was having second thoughts about?
I think so. I like I said, you look at Chuck Norris now and his approach to things. I really think, and even you look at the Canon movies he did after this, there's such a tone down in comparison to what is it. This movie is so over the top with its violence aspect of it, and I think Chuck realized, I don't want to make movies like this.
So Lacey, we were, you know, obviously, I zeroed in on that article that I just wrote about how actually violent this movie is. And it still kind of surprises me after every time I watch it, even though I've seen this movie so many times and I've seen so many action films. What do you think?
I think that at a certain point, when you are as invested in martial arts as Chuck Norris is or was at the time, you know, a lot of martial arts are based on defensive measures. And when you have, you know, film is one thing, but real life is another. And when you start realizing that this was in the 80s, like, you know, towards the end of the 80s, and then we start having, you know, school shootings, we start having like mall shootings, we start having things like that. I think that the media gives people, actors, writers, pause.
Yeah.
To say, okay, well, am I contributing? You know, and this is right around the time where Tipper Gore was going on her crusade about, you know, music and lyrics,
right,
and things like that.
Yep.
There's a big there's a tone shift. It's not just Chuck Norris, right? Like it was very clearly a late 80s kind of across the board for the United States.
Obviously, Chuck was famous as well. So yeah.
But I think if you've seen any interviews with him, he's a very quiet, like respectful, like he doesn't speak unless it's like necessary. He's very intelligent. He's very centered. And I think that's a lot of that's probably because of martial arts, but it's also, he's just an intelligent man who thought, you know, I can still do this and make a difference and show people that my martial arts don't require aggression, that it can be used as a defensive measure and still make these types of movies.
Yeah, it's just just to kind of wrap up this topic here. It's fun to revisit this film, and there's so many reasons why I like this film. But I've always been a fan of, like, if in an action film, if violence is done creatively or in a way to where you're like, whoa, and it kind of makes you pause. It's one of those things that I like, and this movie does that. It's what like I said, you had you had Red Dawn the year prior to this, so the threat was scary of what was happening with the Cold War and what could happen. So yeah, well, when it comes, yeah, Lacey, real quick.
Red Dawn, the opening scene of this with the kid on the boat talking to his dad about, are we going to make it? Are we going to make it? Are we going to make it? The shot at the opening scene of Red Dawn, there's the side of the school where you see the one kid leaning out the window with the bullet, like here. Yeah. That, and I kind of looked away because it was kind of like, oh, are they going to Red Dawn me? Like I don't remember this being right. But I kind of looked away at that scene because I was like, are they going to pull that one kid out the window?
I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, this has an opening shocking scene for when Rostov shows how bad he is. And he has bloodthirsty lieutenants that are just as bad in this film that we'll shed light on. But let's talk about some of the reviews here that are out there. Now I have a current tomato reading for Rotten Tomatoes, and right now it's at 18% on the tomato meter. The popcorn meter with fans is at 52%, and the tomato meter only has 22 reviews, where the 52% has 5,000 plus ratings on there, to give you a little perspective.
Why is there no kick-ass-o-meter? Because that'd be like a 97.
Exactly. Right? Exactly. Like, yeah. And then you get a bump for canon. I'm just saying, I like that. Yeah. So Roger Ebert gave the film 0.5 stars out of 4. He called it a brain damaged, idiotic thriller, not even bad enough to be laughable. In my lifetime, I have not read all the reviews that Roger Ebert has given, but I don't remember any 0.0. Like he had to he didn't just say 0 out of 4. He gave it a 0.5 for something. And I'm wondering if it was the Chuck Norris bump. I just thought that was funny. His buddy, Gene Siskel, said the Chicago Tribune gave the movie 1 out of 4 and wrote that, quote, "It has a terrific premise, but no script." And then Variety wrote, "A brainless plot would be almost forgivable, or if it were not for the perverse depiction of innocents butchered in Invasion U.S.A. Star Chuck Norris, who co-wrote the script and recently chiseled a popular niche with his Missing in Action and Code of Silence pictures, hits his nadir with this vicious-minded commodity from the Cannon Group." They go on to say, "The Rambo audience will blink at this one. Yes, it will make some money."
That's the problem, is that it had great fights, it had great action, but the pieces that just the texture wasn't there. There were no interstitials. Like there was no. How did he know that they were at the mall? Like the scene beforehand, we saw the whole time where he was talking to the guy, asking him questions.
Lacey, I can answer the question right now. And going through the research and the trivia,
sure,
this had a lot more character development to it. There was a much larger version of this. But this is the canon effect. Mm-hmm. They don't give a crap about loose plot points or character development.
Yep.
And in a weird way, when I look back of all the stuff we could have learned about some of the characters and why he knew about where things were, I'm kind of glad they kept it at what it is. Kyle, what say you?
So there's been these things that are popping up on especially Facebook, social media about, hey, it's 2025, but I grew up in the 80s, and they go through all these things. This is a perfect example of that. I was tougher in the 80s, and I could do it. You just were tougher in the 80s. This was a different time frame for this movie. There's no way this movie flies today as it is constructed.
Right.
And it's not. Let's really be honest. When you throw in the Canon Films effect, this is not a great movie. This is a great action piece, but it's not necessarily a great movie. And so
you don't want it to be a great movie. You want it to be canon action, and it gives you that. You know?
But that's what I'm saying. But when you go off these reviews and how people look at this, and then you look at how violent this movie is, even for it's it's not fair to go off of Rotten Tomatoes, I think, because they're not going. It's Rotten Tomatoes was created well after this movie existed. If Rotten Tomatoes was in time, and this is the kind of movie the critics are never going to like. Period. It's just never going to happen.
It's one of those things too. I'll get you in just a sec, Lacey. That I would want to ask: why are you giving it a 0.5, Ebert? Why are you allowed to give 0? What was it, the 0.5 that you felt like it had to be on the scale? Because his buddy gave it a 1.
Fear of Chuck Norris.
Maybe, yeah. Lacey, real quick, go ahead before we go into trivia.
I think my struggle is that I have a degree in screenwriting. That's my degree.
That makes sense.
When I see some of these movies, and don't get me wrong, I can go blindly into a movie and just like enjoy the ride, but we are talking in depth about it. So I have to bring up some of these things where I'm like, oh gosh, no. Seriously.
Let me throw something out at you that I would like you to answer later in the show, Lacey. Sure. If this got the Lacey screenwriting treatment, what would you have done differently? And I want you to think about that. Sure. And also for the listeners and the viewers, what would you have added when it came to plot wise or character wise? That we'll tackle that at the end of the show, because I got a portion for that. But let's get into some trivia first here. I don't know if anyone wants to volunteer for the first one here. Kyle, you want to do this one?
Yeah, I will get that first piece of trivia here, because until 2007, this was MGM's second highest selling home video title behind Gone with the Wind.
I would have liked to have known how much money this movie made on video. I didn't look that up, but I'm kind of curious about that. So
in the 80s, remember when we first started having video purchases, you're still talking, $32 for a VHS copy.
Yeah.
So this was
I have a feeling in the long run, they probably made more movie on the video run than they actually did on the film itself.
Oh, so, big time. Big time.
Now, Lacey, I'd like you to get the next bit of trivia here, because I know that you can speak to living in Atlanta, and I know where this location is. And so I'd like you to get the next one, because this is fascinating.
Sure. Richard Lynch and his crew blew up a real residential neighborhood during shooting. It was slated for demolition due to the expansion of Hartsfield Airport's runway. So the Atlanta Film Commission gave the Cannon Group permission to blow it up. The area is currently the site of the Georgia International Convention Center in College Park. Now, I vaguely remember this being like in the news. I mean, I was probably, when was this out? I was probably like 10.
84 is when they're filming it.
Okay, so I was 11. But I remember this being on the news. And as far as Atlanta stuff, I mean, you can't beat some of the things. I mean, the shots of, the Peachtree Plaza, like the Westin. I mean, there's just with the helicopters and it's definitely Atlanta based. You get the good second half of the film is set in Atlanta, so it's interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was fascinating, because I remember this trivia a long time ago, and I remember going by that convention center, going, "Oh man, I wonder what it would have been really cool to see what that looked like on the set as they're blowing up these houses for destruction."
Well, and it also makes sense as far as the city government is concerned. I mean, Atlanta back then was a miniature hub for Hollywood. The way, far lower scale than it is now, but it was a good spot. I mean, there were certain actors who really chose to do a lot of stuff in Atlanta, between Burt Reynolds and all these other, actors who would come to the South. And when it came down to it, if you were a contractor and you needed something dealt with, you could tell the Georgia Film Commission you needed something blown up, and they'd offer it to film crews.
I've heard about that. Georgia. I didn't realize. I knew of over the last 15 years, Georgia. With Marvel and Walking Dead. And it had become the new Hollywood over the last 20 years. But I didn't realize that I went back that far after I was doing my research. So well, the next bit of trivia here explains a little bit about why stuff was changed. Cannon completely removed all of the story elements and background characters in the editing room in order to concentrate on Chuck Norris and the action. Editor Daniel Lowenthal has stated that Cannon's cut made the film heavily episodic and pretty much a collection of explosive action scenes. So that goes a little bit into there. Kyle, what do you got?
I'm going to give everybody who's watching on YouTube a quick example of how things went in the Cannon editing room. We are now going to invoke the Cannon effect.
That's when we don't care how they feel, where they came from. We're just gonna give you the basic stupidest plot that you'll need, and you're gonna get a lot of action and Chuck Norris kicking ass. That's what. Well, speaking of Kyle, can you hit the next bit of trivia here for us?
Yeah, Chuck Norris performed most of his own stunts, including the scene where he hangs off the side of a pickup while is driven through the shopping center kiosks and windows.
There you go. Lacey, I'm going to have you read the next bit.
I just have to say that they must have brought their own gas can with them, because those display cars are towed into malls, specifically so they can't be stolen.
Can you say the beginning of that sentence you cut out?
I'm going to, yes, I will absolutely number 5, but I just have one comment about that last one. They must have brought their own gas can with them, because cars that are in malls are towed in specifically so they can't be stolen.
Gotcha. So there's no gas in them. Gotcha. Yeah.
Okay. One day during filming, director Joseph Zito was told by a PA that Menachem Golan was on the phone wanting to talk to him. He feared the worst, knowing that Golan's frugal ways and history of slashing budgets, but took the call anyway. Much to his surprise, Golan said he was delighted with the footage that he had seen, and he was giving the production an extra $2 million. What? Okay.
That's a lot back then.
Yeah.
And so I'm assuming that the original budget, if I remember correctly, was 12 million, and it went from 10 to 12. I can see where probably extra money went into. What we can speculate on.
And there's a certain director we know who could probably do amazing stuff with an extra $2 million.
Yeah. Kyle, I'm going to have you read the next one because I'm saving the last one for myself here. Kyle, read the next one, please. This is interesting.
Chuck Norris pushed for Whoopi Goldberg for the role of the reporter, but was overruled by director Joseph Zito. Despite the film's success, Norris vowed to never work with Zito again over the dispute.
This came from the special features. I found out that Chuck had seen Whoopi in a one-person play, and then of course she wins the color purple. She wins the Oscar, so she is on the rise here for reasons. But thoughts on her playing the reporter in this? Would this have worked for you guys, Lacey?
I think it would have worked for the audience, but it would have stalled her career.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way she actually ever chooses to do this movie.
Well, it's not in that. I think that as a Black woman at that time, you had to choose your roles very carefully, because there's a lot of ism in all of the Hollywood of it all. You know, there's a lot of the isms. So
yeah,
I don't think she chooses this movie.
You know, it's funny. I was immediately going, no, I don't know if that would work just because of what she was doing. But then I realized she's done like Burglar and these other films.
She would have been the best thing about this movie if she had been in it.
I started warming up to that idea, going, that could have worked, but I have other thoughts about that.
And I think her Oscar was for Ghost. I don't think it was for Color Purple.
Yeah, that's right. But she got a claim for Color Purple. Was she nominated? Maybe I can't remember.
I don't remember.
Yeah. Okay. You're right. Thank you for correcting me on that.
No, it's all good.
Kyle, get us with trivia number 7 here.
Despite being one of the greatest martial artists who ever lived, Chuck Norris only kicks 2 people in the entire film. That's because he shoots everybody first.
Yeah, and this scene here where he gets that thug, and then he says the best line is, "I'm going to hit you so many times with a right, you're going to be begging for a left."
Yes. And then the guy in the red shirt, who is easily a foot taller than Chuck Norris, runs away and comes back with a super jacked up short king to protect him, and it is absolutely the funniest thing in the whole movie. Like, this guy comes walking in and he's like, and he's just he's stacked, he's jacked, he's ready to go, but he's like this tiny guy, and the guy behind him is like 1.5 feet taller than him, going,
it's just so funny. You have this great martial artist, and I think this was probably Chuck's idea. Like, I'm not going to do martial arts, I'm just going to do action. And he only kicked 2 people. Everything else is guns, which I'm fine with. This is one of the things I love about this film, is that I'm not going to solve this. I'm not going to say this is Chuck Norris's, like, I'm going to, branch out as an actor and kick less, but more like, because he was really good in Code of Silence when it comes to acting wise. I mean, that's probably one of his best acting performances when it comes to 80s action films. but I'm just like, he's just like, you know what? No, this action hero doesn't do martial arts. He's very good thinking about, and he's very good at planning. He's very good at, seeing danger, because this is what a ex-CIA agent would do, as opposed to being a jack of all trades, which most people would end up doing. So, yeah.
And also that might be the beginning of him trying to split his action from his martial arts.
Yeah.
Because you want to separate the guns and the defensive movements. Like that might be part of the beginning of that for him.
So the last bit of trivia here I found interesting while I was doing some research on this. So I'm going to showcase the video here, but I'll explain it to the audio audience here. So here is a DVD copy of Invasion USA right here that I'm showcasing. As I was looking through a history and trying to find some interesting tidbits to share, this is not the first movie called Invasion USA, guys. Did you know that there's a 1952 version called Invasion USA? Excuse me, Invasion, USA right now. So I found a DVD copy of this. I popped it in. It's done by these guys called Sinister Cinema. So it's not like the best quality. They have their contact information on the back here. They specialize in, I'm just going to put it out there. They specialize in obviously horror stuff that Mystery Science Theater 3000 might make fun of during their show. And let me tell you right now, there's actually a Mystery Science Theater version of Invasion USA. I can't remember what season or episode, but it is available on YouTube. This film in black and white is also available on YouTube for free. I think you can also find it on Tubi or something like that. So I actually decided to watch the YouTube version, and basically to give you an idea of what this film's about, I'm going to go ahead and showcase the poster art here on YouTube so you guys can kind of see, as it's definitely got 1950s movie vibe. As you can see, Invasion USA, there's a bomb going off here. And so I was curious. I almost forgot to watch this, guys, to be honest with you, but I watched it last night for the podcast. And here's the plot. A group of people at a bar witness the unfolding events of Soviet invasion of USA. Keep in mind, this is during the beginning of the Cold War, the McCarthy trials. Soviets were our enemy. Were we in nuclear war was a big thing here. Atom bombs, big thing. These 5 people are sitting in a New York bar with a mysterious Mr. Oman when they hear the news that the godless communists are invading the good old U.S.A. The 5 rush off to various sections of the country to do their part to stop the invasion when an A-bomb crashes down upon Manhattan. The name that stood out to me is a very young Dan O'Hurley, if I remember correctly. If that is
O'Hurley?
How do you say it?
O'Hurley?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I believe he's the actor that is the leader of the police academy. If I think that's the guy. Am I getting that right?
I don't know that, but I think.
No, he was the old man in RoboCop.
Thank you.
Well,
thank you. Thank you, Kyle. There you go.
The OCP head in RoboCop.
He was the one that fired Ronnie Cox's character, right?
Dick Jones, you're fired.
There you go. Yeah.
I also I kind of want to say that he played Grig in The Last Starfighter.
Yes, I think you're right.
Maybe?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Kyle, before I go on my point, Kyle, can you look that up?
Yes, he was Grig in The Last Starfighter.
Yeah.
I just want to finish up the trivia about this film, though. So it's a very low budget black and white film. And a lot of the battle scenes, by the way, are all just recycled World War II stuff, pretty much. And then they put it in there. And one of the guys has to go back to California because he has a business there. And the interesting thing about this film, though, is they talk about where they strike first. And they, just like they mentioned I know they did in the remake of Red Dawn, they come over the Bering Strait. They take over like Alaska and stuff like that because of all the oil and all that kind of stuff. But they actually attack Washington and Oregon, and then they start moving down. And then, of course, they hit other parts throughout. And there's this scene where they're supposed to be Russians, but it looks like they're actors trying to do some type of European accent that comes across a little too German. And they're actually dressed very much like German officers in World War II, because I feel like they just got some costumes that were cheap, and they put these guys. There's a big map of the United States of where they're targeting, and a lot of it's like the northern part in Montana. And they start slowly coming down the West Coast. What I found very funny is in this alternate universe of where Invasion USA takes place, there's no Goonies movie because they actually target and mention Astoria in the movie.
Dang.
But they use like atom bomb explosions that were obviously test explosions in other parts. And the decimated cities that are supposed to be in the US, you could tell that they were like either fake cities that were blown up, and they filmed out in, New Mexico. And then there was like bombing runs that were obviously bombing runs in World War II spliced in it with it. It's not a good film. It's only an hour and like 15, 20 minutes. But, it was interesting to see where we were at as a society. One of the characters, though, I found interesting, did find his way back to his business in San Francisco. And of course, there's a scene where he gets invaded by some Russians because they actually have Russian machine guns, and he refuses and he gets killed. And so it's dark. And there's a scene that's kind of sad too, when people are trying to go to the bus station to get back home to the people they love them. And all of the cities either are destroyed, or the bus system and the train system is just down and they can't do it, so. Check it out if you want. It is free on YouTube. And I did not watch the Mystery Science Theater version. I found out, though, just now it is season 7, episode 2. That is also free on YouTube, but I didn't have time to watch both. So I just wanted to watch the original one there. So there we go. Did you have a quick comment, Lacey?
I was just going to say the photo you just showed, the one of the explosion.
Yep.
You can see where they literally took like color chrome or whatever that stuff was and like erased the picture on the film. Like
that's the New York atom bomb explosion that they're showcasing there. So they did have a moment to throw in a little romantic scene between the guy that's the local newscaster and the one girl in the film that is the star. But other than that, you could pass it. But if you want to check it out, you can. So.
Speaking of newscasters, can we just say that Monica Kaufman is the newscaster in this film? That is awesome. That is a very Atlanta
Can you
thing.
hold off onto that? We have that in the next things because we have thoughts about that when it comes to the cast. So yeah.
Okay.
But let's get into our favorite scenes, guys. There's a lot to choose from here. I picked some of the big ones here to showcase on YouTube. But let's go with you, Lacey, your favorite scenes. There's a lot of action scenes, a lot of fun moments. Of course, we got the school bus bomb chase scene. We got the mall. Mall was a big one there as well. We got Rostov making his power play against the drug dealers and trying to get money for the guns and then turning on them. And then, of course, we got the big final showdown in downtown Atlanta with Rostov and stuff like that. So, Lisa, let's start with you. What are some of your favorite scenes in Invasion USA?
I think my favorite scenes are the one-liners. I love where he pulls the thing off the side of the school bus and is like, you forgot you dropped something. And then I think you mentioned earlier when he comes up the church and he's like, didn't work, huh?
Yeah.
And drops it. Now it will. Just the fact that he has these, they're not the same as like a Schwarzenegger one-liner or a Stallone one-liner. They're a little bit more like almost dad joke, but like in a good way.
They're very Norrisy, I guess.
Yeah, they're Norrisisms, I guess. And then I love the fact that they had Billy Drago in the like opening scene, but I felt like it was such a waste of Billy Drago because he would have been such a good crazy like part of the bad guy squad.
Can I just interrupt you real quick? Chuck Norris liked him so much that he became the bad guy in. You guys know it?
Oh, I didn't know you were asking for.
Yeah.
I thought you
sorry, I did. I pulled a Kyle there. Sorry.
Gotcha. No, I don't know. I was not in anticipation.
Do you know what I'm talking about, Kyle?
I'm blanking at the moment.
Delta Force 2.
When
it's talking about when they take on the drug cartels in South America, Billy Drago is the lead villain in that. So he obviously made an impact on because God, he was creepy in this one, Lacey. Sorry, go ahead.
He had like 4 lines. I mean, it was literally a 2.5-minute scene, and he picks up. He has a black phone, a red phone, and a white phone on the desk. It was so 80s.
One was for cocaine, one was for non-cocaine, and the other one
was obviously for the president.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the red phone is for the president or Batman.
I'm glad you brought that up because that made me laugh when I rewatched it. So good point.
Right? And the woman who was in that scene with him, I do not know the actress's name, but she had the best over-the-top reaction to doing a line of cocaine, and I guess it was like spliced with something, or what do you cut? Laced. I don't know. I'm not a but so laced with something terrible, and so all of a sudden she's like, "Mah!" And then he throws her out a window. He doesn't like snap her neck to shut her up. He just throws her out a window. That was hilarious.
That's because he hits her head into the snorting straw, and that's when she reacts because she's about to die there.
Oh yeah, but she had this great reaction to it.
Yeah,
and then he throws her out a window. Like,
Kyle, what about you? What are some of your favorite scenes in Invasion USA?
The mall is one of the greatest shootouts of all time. If they were to ever make the Invasion USA video game, it would probably be the most important scene level in the game because it would just be absolutely crazy.
Is palpable there, Kyle, because you have the kid throwing the gum and the security guard trying to stop the kid, and then you got the briefcase mysteriously left there, and a guy notices it.
Yeah, like I said,
shopping bag.
Shopping bag. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
It's just it's intense. It's just action filled with some of the craziest stunts at the time. I mean, and the fact knowing that Chuck was doing his own stunts, especially at that point. I mean, it's one of those ones to where if you were going to go back and show like the best of 80s action films to a class, this would be on the list.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's really well done.
I feel like there needs to be a top 5 action movies with mall sequences. Because there's Terminator, you got Commando, you got this. I mean, those are good, solid action movies.
This is the height of the mall. So it was a smart thing to do to film a scary scene with terrorists in a busy, crowded mall during Christmas time. That it was smart to do that, and it's scary, and it was done with really good effectiveness, and you really got to see that. And what I like about the film too is that you see the main henchmen pop up. They'll survive till a little bit later, but you see, Chuck Norris doing this thing with the chase with the truck, and then the reporter comes with the car, and the innocent woman gets pulled to the side, and they're trying to get her, and it's definitely, Kyle, this would be a good video game scene, just like you said. I like that. That was a good comparison. I want to give a shout out just to the final ending battle scene when they trick Rostov with his own blood vengeance to try to kill him, and they get all the terrorists to come down into downtown Atlanta because Matt Hunter's been captured on live TV, and it was all a setup. I just love that. I love that Chuck Norris just kicking it in this cheap hotel room. Just come on, I'm just gonna watch some TV, and you're not sure when you're watching it for the first time what's really going on. And it was a very clever way, because one of the things I love about this film is that it's the villain who is afraid throughout the entire film of being haunted by this guy who he knows will kill him the next time he sees him. So he's going to try to go after him. And this is the smart thing about this plot that they left in, but they don't throw it at you and tell you right away that Chuck Norris's character, Matt, knows this and is playing on this. That's the one thing you left in there that I thought was kind of cool, that you see Rostov, who's bloodthirsty, kill so many people, and he's afraid of Matt.
I gotta say, though, if this guy, who is obviously both psycho and sociopath, like he's like in all the bad things, right? His character, obviously the character Rostov, if he's having these nightmares for years before this is going to happen, what on earth prompts him to decide to invade the United States and then go, oh wait, I've had some more nightmares. We should probably deal with that guy first. He had years to deal with this guy.
They addressed that in the film with the character, the other lead bad guy in this, who kills the couple on the beach, because he doesn't do it, and then he has that nightmare of the flashback when he was about to use it, and then they capture him, And then that's when he goes against the advice of the other terrorist, and he uses his power to try and kill him now instead of do what he needs to do.
But when he wakes up from that dream and the guys come in and he's like, they're like, bad dreams again. He's like, yeah, the nightmare. He has had this nightmare before.
Yeah.
He has had this nightmare for years. He has had years to process this and deal with it. He has not.
Well, Matt's been hiding all this time. He's been out of the radar, and he's been working, and then Rostov's been working on this invasion thing. And until Matt rears his head when, he tries to kill him earlier in the film, and he thinks he's dead, but he's not, And it makes me think about that poor armadillo. I wonder what happened with the armadillo.
He was a very bad armadillo parent. That was not an appropriate way to deal with the armadillo. Now, we saw the armadillo escaped, but he did not, and he didn't even look for armadillo. He's just like, I'm going to chuck my finger in there and burn it, and I'm going to go.
All right, next, let's get into the cast and crew discussion, guys. So what I like about this film is not only is Chuck Norris kicking ass, but what I like is that we get some interesting character villains in this as well. But before we go any further, though, we have to, of course, talk about the main producers here, guys. We got Nahum Golan and Yoram Globus here. I'm trying to say that better each time. Thank you, Lacey. I'm getting better. I think you approve of that.
Yes.
These are the brain trust behind Canon Films here. And I did want to, of course, showcase the documentaries that we like to talk about here. And Lacey, of course, brought my attention to the Go-Go Boys here. And, of course, the Electric Boogaloo here as well, which both showcase them. The Go-Go Boys get a little more personal on the background behind these famous producers. It is definitely worth a visit to make sure you check it out. You can also buy this Electric Boogaloo. I guess it's the Bombs, Babes, and Blockbusters of Canon Films, a 10-pack DVD collection of a lot of these films that we're also discussing, some not, but the documentary is also on this collection. And you can also buy the documentary itself. I bought the DVD version, and I got the Blu-ray version of the Go-Go. Thank you, by the way, again, Lacey, for mentioning the Go-Go Boys, because I almost forgot about that when we first started this. So make sure you guys go and check that out. They're both great documentaries about the people behind this, especially the Go-Go Boys, and overall and stuff like that. So, but let's talk about the director here first, guys. This is worth mentioning here. So Zito. Let me get to him real quick here. Zito, Joseph Zito is the director of this, and he's got some other stuff behind his resume here that's worth mentioning. So he's known for working with Dolph Lundgren in Red Scorpion in '88. Of course, Invasion USA. He also worked with Chuck Norris in Mission in Action the year prior in '84. He also did Friday the 13th, the final chapter in '84. So he's got some early '80s horror action going on here. And here's a picture of him on the set here as well. Of course, showcasing the final end battle scene with all the tanks and such. So that is the director, Joseph. But I want to get your guys' thoughts on the cast itself. As I teased at the beginning of this segment, there's a lot of very, I'm not going to say you root for the terrorist, but they're very distinctive terrorists when you see them. We, of course, have Chuck Norris as Matt Hunter, Richard Lynch as Rostov, Melissa Prophet as Delia McGuire, Alexander Zale as Nico Kador, Alex Cullen as Thomas Montoya, Ellie Jones is the FBI in charge, Billy Drago, we've talked about him, and other notable people where like you see their face, but you really may not know their names. Lacey, I want to start with you and the cast in general. Of course, we've got here a picture of our lead star looking very 80s in his tight jeans with, of course, Chuck Norris. But you brought up Melissa. I'm sorry, what's her name? Monica.
She's Monica Pearson now, but she was Monica Kaufman at the time.
Because I have thoughts about her, but why did you bring her up first? I'm kind of curious.
She's an Atlanta reporter. She's been a newscaster for a million years.
So she's a real reporter.
Yes, she is. I'm talking about I'm not talking about this woman you're showing.
Oh,
okay. I'm talking about Monica Kaufman, the television reporter, the African American woman who's on the screen doing the reports during. So she's not technically a cast member. She is. She's just labeled as newscaster. But interesting thing, she's only been in 4 movies, and one of them was this, and one of them right afterwards was Sharky's Machine. She played the newscaster in Sharky's Machine as well. So there's a couple later on, but these two were kind of her two 80s, newscaster
I didn't
roles.
realize you were going to bring up the news reporter, but that's cool. She
Well,
actually
the
has
reason I
ties.
brought it up when I did was because I was talking about Atlanta.
Okay.
And so she is an Atlanta newscaster. She's been in Atlanta for, ever.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I got that confused with the actual actress that was playing. So, well, give me your thoughts on the cast.
Yeah. As far as the cast is concerned, Chuck Norris is fantastic. I legitimately don't know the newscaster's name. The reporter's name.
Melissa Prophet plays Delia McGuire, the reporter.
The thing is that when it comes to people who are not already famous, i.e. Billy Drago and Richard, what's his name? Richard Lynch and Chuck Norris and a couple others. When it comes to canon films, because there is very little character development, you don't know if these actors are talented at all because there's so little actual acting. So I don't think that they gave her, it was a horrible performance, but I don't think it was her fault. I think that she was given 3 lines. They were all snarky, I'm a badass chick lines, which were very 80s, right?
Gotcha.
They were very 80s, like, I'm the girl, so I'm going to be tough kind of lines. And they kind of put her in these like delicate, like light colored, on the photograph you've got up right now, she's wearing like a pale yellow dress that looks almost like a waitress dress, and she's like yelling at him and saying like, fine jerk, and it's just this very counterintuitive thing. They were trying to make her like the badass reporter, but also the frail little innocent,
right?
And you can't. There's a dichotomy there that doesn't work in an 80s film if you don't give her the lines that she needs to express.
Well, that's going to go into a comment I have in the next segment regarding cast of why of my feelings about that character. Real quick though, before we get to Kyle's thoughts on it, was there any other cast members that stood out for you?
Chuck Norris's pants. They definitely did their job. They were struggling at times, but I think that they held up well.
They are definitely a character in this film. Chuck Norris's pants.
Oh, also the ponytail. There's one scene at the very, very beginning when he is on one of the airboats, and it's the only scene in the whole movie where he has like a tiny I feel like they probably did that as an after shoot, like a reshoot. And
wasn't that when he was wrestling the alligator that he actually did in real life?
Yeah, but the thing is that they had it was like a faux mullet because it was straight.
Okay.
It wasn't the same as his hair.
All right. So pants. Kyle, your thoughts on the cast?
Lacy pants, Norris pants, whatever. Sorry.
Obviously Chuck Norris, what else can you say? Richard Lynch makes a great villain. But Kevin, the great thing about this movie is, how when you were a kid, you always got that box of crowns that you just always knew the crowns were, but you may not always known the
I'm sorry, a box of what?
Crayons.
Color crayons.
Okay.
They had some oddball colors, but you knew what they were, but you didn't maybe know the name of them. This was a typical canon film bad guy box of crowns movie where you had all these, I know that face, I know that face, I know that face. And it's just like, okay, it's the that guy villain movie. And you don't necessarily know the actor's name, but you're so familiar with it, with it. You just know when that person's on the screen, oh yeah, he's bad. He's bad. There's trouble coming.
I'm not going to try. That's a great point, Kyle, because I want to stay on this picture I have here of the other villains and the other cast member guys here. So, by the way, rest in peace, alligator guy / I have this business underneath the government's thumb. It was an airboat business that he's been hiding for years.
John Eagle. His name was John Eagle.
Yeah. He gets killed, and they wrestle the alligator together. But I want to talk about the villains. First of all, Billy Drago is I love this long stare that he has with Rostov's character. They both hate each other, but they're like just staring each other down. But the main villain sidekick guy, who's the one, I don't know who he is, but he's the one that kills the couple on the beach, and he's the one that's kind of like in the head and trying to reason with Rostov's character. And he's the one that eventually holds the the reporter hostage, and then Chuck Norris does that cool little thing with the gun and moves it barely and shoots himself in the head. But then there's like that Asian guy that is part of the fake police that shoots those people, and then he's the one that says, "Don't forget to leave witnesses. They want witnesses," and you see him like cleaning a gun in the gun scene. And, and so you see these guys that are just like ruthless. They have their own thing killing people. And then eventually they all get their comeuppance. But they're just this, you look at them, they just did a great job of like, you may not know their name. This might've been their biggest role, but they had their moments of being totally bad in this film. And it scares you because they're different ethnicities in this. They're not all white guys, and they could be anyone hiding anywhere, which I thought was a really smart choice with this and the cast. And I got to give a shout out to Richard Lynch. This was my first experience with Richard Lynch. I became a huge fan of his character acting. He did a great Star Trek 2-part episode that we talked about last year when we talked about all the Next Generation 2-part episodes on the Union Federation. And he used to be a big time drug dealer. And the reason why he looks like he is because he was freebasing and there was an explosion and fire and he almost died. And then he had to turn around and got clean and became a villain and everything that he did. He was also in the Highlander TV series once as a villain as well. So I just want to give a shout out to Richard Lynch. Lacey, quick. Yeah.
I think the combination of the Latin guys and the Slavic guys was because at the time, one of the biggest issues that the United States was dealing with was that Russia was partnering with Cuba.
Yes.
And so I think that was the combination they were trying to show, was that these were, because there was a lot of Spanish speaking with some of the villains. Yeah. So I think they were trying to show
it was a very they put thought into the casting, which I thought was great. And some of these people are like, they don't look like terrorists. They just look like a normal person. And then you realize how ruthless they are. So
yeah, but what does a terrorist really look like? I mean,
I'm just saying they did a good job of casting people that don't stand out. And I thought that was a very smart thing. So
cool.
Yeah.
Right on.
But you're right. Okay. Next we have is the 2-part question here regarding the casting. And I got some thoughts on this. The Ocean's 11, do you think we need one more? Who would you have added to the cast? Or Tom Selleck was Indiana Jones. Which cast member would you replace with another, and who? Now, I always showcase the top grossing stars of 1985 or of the year that this whatever movie that we're talking about, what other people that come in here. And by the way, in the top 10, at number 10 is Chuck Norris. He's on the rise here. Number 1 was Chevy Chase, Clint Eastwood, followed by Dan Aykroyd, Harrison Ford, Steve Guttenberg, William Hurt, Ali Sheedy, Kathleen Turner, and Sylvester Stallone, followed by Eddie Murphy, Emilio Estevez, and Patrick Swayze. Now, this is all based on box office numbers and popularity and stuff. So those are all kind of put into this list here. I'm going to go ahead and mention my thoughts here. Kyle, you mentioned this in a previous podcast. We love Brian Dennehy. We feel like he was on the rise here. He was in a lot. I felt Brian Dennehy would have been a good addition to like maybe one of the FBI guys. I feel like if you had Brian Dennehy, this would have brought a little more oomph to those characters. Whether he was the one, I'm not saying he could replace the guy that came to the Florida Everglades, but someone like in charge. I felt like he would have the weight on that. Anyone have thoughts on my, addition?
You can never go wrong with that,
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll take that as I'm speechless, but Kevin's right. So there we go. Now, here's where I might get some pushback from you guys, but I am not a fan of the casting of Melissa Prophet as Delia McGuire in this, because in this, yes, you can obviously have a bad script and the acting come across bad because of it. I'm just going to throw out a couple of prequel Star Wars films, suffered from that. But Melissa Prophet did not come at me as someone as I would. Just the way she delivered her lines came across as I'm not the best actress, but I've got some spunk, so maybe that's why she's in there. I'm going to go with Colleen Camp. I really liked her in Clue. She had a certain gravitas to her performance, and I also find her very cute as well. I thought she would have had a little more juice as this character, as the I don't take no shit. I was here before you. I'm within my right to be reporting on this. You guys are hiding stuff. I just felt Colleen Camp was at a certain time, and she was at Clue during this time. I think this would have been a good. Anyway, that is my choice for replacing Melissa Prophet as Delia McGuire. I would have gone with Colleen Camp. Do you guys have anyone that you would like to add or replace? And if you replace, with who? Lacey.
I think that I do think that the problem with the reporter role was that there was not enough of it. Yep. I feel like every single scene she was in, it felt like it was cut on both sides. So the line that she gave was likely part of a bigger speech, is kind of how it felt. So I don't know that anyone would have done well with this role.
See, that's where I disagree, because the way that she yells in certain scenes, like if that's all that you get, you got to make it work. And that to me,
that's the thing. I don't think that's all that she got. I think that they filmed scenes and then they cut everything out that was not what they wanted. And so I think that anything that showed her giving some sort of positive acting experience.
You mentioned that. Gotcha. Was there something anyone else that you would have done?
Judy Aronson. She was the brunette of the two girls in Weird Science.
And she was also in American Ninja.
Correct. And I think she's born in 1964, so that gives her she's not quite as old as the.
She's a little young. She's a little young there.
But she had a really good, because she did American Ninja, and I mean she's got a good range for age.
I agree.
She can go kind of 5 years older, 5 years younger. So
I love that pick.
Yeah, I think she could have done something, and I think that might have given her kind of the median between being the damsel in distress in.
I would have
American Ninja and then
thought about her. I'm glad you brought her up. I thought about her, but I thought she might have been too young, but I think she could have played older. So that's a good call. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Was there anyone you would have added to the cast?
I mean, honestly, you could add anybody to this cast and make it a little bit better. I'm not trying to be mean to the movie, but I think that with a canon film, there's a lot of people you can bring in that are, I mean, John, what's his name from the bad guy from Commando? John, let off some steam. What's his name?
Bennett.
Bennett.
The Australian actor. Yeah.
John, gotcha. He would have been great as like another one of the bad. I mean, because there were so many. Because
he was probably filming Commando, because Commando came out the same year. So
right.
But Kyle, you've been very quiet.
John Vernon, that's his name.
Vernon. There you go. Yeah. Kyle, you've been very quiet. You like this segment here. Come on, speak up, man.
Well, I've been waiting because I'm biding my time. There's only one man that you need to add to this movie, because as powerful as Chuck is, as powerful as Matt is, he needs a little somebody to maybe watch his back just a little bit more. And we are talking canon films, which means there's only one man who can come into this movie. That is one Steve James. He needs to be in this movie.
You're after my own heart there, Kyle. Wow. Okay. Where would you put him in? Because would he overshadow Chuck Norris?
No, I don't think he would overshadow Chuck Norris. You maybe bring him in as a retired, maybe somebody he was still in the military that he did some, or CIA that he did some stuff with, knows a little bit of the back history about this. This is like, no, I'm not letting my boy out to hang here.
Weapons broker who decides to come along for the ride.
That you can do that too, but just somebody.
You can't have him stepping on Chuck's toes here, and
he's not stepping on
Chuck. Watching these canon films, and of course we talked about him in American Ninja 1 and 2. He steals his scenes from that. He would steal scenes in this film which they would not have allowed. So where would you put him in?
You can see that's the thing, and this is.
I'm challenging you on that, because I like the suggestion, but he can't be in the movie all the through it. You can't.
No, he's not. He's not. Guns instead of punches. Then it stands to reason that Steve James could come in and do a lot of like the physical fighting and kicking and whatever, and not step on Chuck Norris's toes, because he was deliberately not kicking anyone in that film, in this movie. I feel like there's a place for him to come in and be, badass martial arts guy, next to
what would have been a good scene for him, actually, that you bring that up, Lacey, is the flashback scene when they capture Rostov. He could have been in there.
You could have had him there and maybe have him show up in maybe the final scene in the final confrontation where maybe he takes out a couple of of the henchmen or something.
He could have been on one of the M60 machine guns mowing down bad guys down the street, maybe, and go, you go, Matt, or something. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I like that. Go. All right. Well, let's get into the next category here. We love talking about transportation here. And the next one is the fast or not so furious mode of transportation. And I got a couple of nominations here, guys, because they're showcased very, very well. Of course, we've got the mall truck, of course, and we got Delia McGuire's 1965 Ford Mustang. The truck, by the way, is the 1985 Nissan 720 pickup truck. And I think I had a toy version of this that came in a non like G.I. Joe or something. And I remember the truck because I use it all the time, and I called it my Invasion USA toy. And of course, this is Matt Hunter's 1978 GMC pickup truck. It is not pretty, but boy, does he use it very, very well. And that is his main source of transportation. Lacey, what is your thoughts, or do you have any other nominations for the fast or not so furious mode of transportation of Invasion USA?
The airboats, man.
I
mean, you got the first 15 minutes of the movie are on those like really fun, like crazy airboats. And I mean, to the point.
Are you just trying to pick something that's not as cool, or did you think it's actually cooler than the ones I nominated?
I think those are cooler because even the scene where the bad guys are coming in, they have that great like long shot of the four of them cutting through the swamp and the wakes that they leave and stuff.
Good
and they were like the bad guys, and even when Chuck gets on there. I mean, do you know how hard it is to man one of those things? Yeah. You are sitting on wire 4 feet off of the base of the boat, right behind something that can take your head off if the screen pops.
Yeah,
something goes wrong.
Good call.
And it literally can turn you into alligator food and then drop you in the.
You've made your case. Yeah, that's good. I didn't even think about that. Mm-hmm. Kyle, I just want to mention too, Steve James was in Invasion USA. The following earlier, was it? Yeah, there you go. It was 86 he did Invasion USA? I think it was. Yeah, anyway. So he did know Steve James. So there you go.
Wait.
Good call, Lacey.
No, do you mean Delta? He was in Delta Force?
What did I say? Invasion.
You said Invasion USA.
Yeah, he was in Delta Force. So
yeah.
Okay. So that's a good connective tissue there.
And I thought that was part of it too, because he and Chuck Norris had great chemistry in Delta Force.
Yeah, well said. And Lacey, good call on the airboats. Yeah, that was a great scene too. Yeah. Kyle, your thoughts on the vehicles?
Some great classic throwbacks, but honestly, if I'm going to take one, I'm taking his truck. Those 1978 GMC pickup trucks were built to stand an explosion. Those things were tough as nails, and he had his tricked out some with the tires and the rack and everything like that. Yeah, give me that truck.
I got to give it to continuity too. That when you see delayed, I keep forgetting the reporter's name, that she at the end she still has the bullet holes in her 65 Mustang. I thought that was pretty funny. So the next category here is the best fight scene in Invasion USA. There's not a lot of hand-to-hand comment, but I'm just going to throw in the machine gun fight scene in the mall. Then you also got the drug dealer room with Rostov and him showing up later, and you got the shootout fight scene, of course, in the office building at the end with all the trucks and tanks there in the street. Lacey, what is your favorite fight scene? You're mute, by the way, Lacey.
I pulled a Lacey. The scene where he's got Tomas, his hand nailed, knifed to the thing in the whorehouse.
Yeah.
When tall red shirt guy comes in, and that whole comment where he runs away and brings back little Mr. Short King, that to me is still, it was funny, but also the fight scene was good. That's my favorite fight scene because it had humor and it had some badassery in it. So I think that might be my favorite. Yeah.
Kyle?
It's you go back to the mall and the machine gun fight scene. That's just that's such an amazing scene and choreographed and planned out well. And Chuck walking around with the Uzis with the short straps on them. It's one of the more
double
classic
shoulder
80s.
holster with the Uzis is one of the coolest looks ever.
Yeah, it's one of the greatest action movie looks ever.
And the fact that he can just walk around like that and no one bats an eye, I think is great.
Talk about open carry.
Yeah. It's interesting too. You just reminded me, guys, of how they show martial law in this and what it looks like, where they start closing down streets and then he has to deal with the terrorist, masquerading as the National Guard and stuff like that. And that's showcased in this as well. Okay, this was a last minute addition, guys, to this because I wasn't really going to put it in this. And this is the Are You Sure That Wasn't Real? The best special effects scene. This movie's pretty straight up when it comes to the action and the blood and the squibs and the explosion, and unless there's specifically like a very noticeable special effects scene, I will put this in here, and I was going to omit it. But then when I started looking at the special features of this and I watched the special features of this film literally earlier this week for the first time. I just kept watching the movie. Well, I'm just going to say 1 day old or 1 week old when I found out that not only did this movie have some special effects that are noteworthy, but it's more noteworthy of who did the special effects, guys. And I did not know this, but there's a great documentary on the Blu-ray Shout Factory edition that I'm holding right here called Cannon Carnage, the makeup effects of Invasion USA. This alone is worth the price of this Blu-ray here, guys. And I'll tell you why. Because of who was involved in this film, I had no idea until this week. Greg Nicotero was a special effects makeup artist for the 1985 Chuck Norris Invasion USA film. He worked alongside other notable special effects artists, including Tom Savini and Howard Berger, on the film's makeup effects. Nicotero is well known for his work with the KNB Effects Group and his role as an executive producer and director of The Walking Dead. Now, for those of you that are horror fans, you should also know who Tom Savini is. He also has a movie. He also has a role in a Tarantino film you guys may know as well. Kyle, do you know what film I'm talking about?
Remind me, because I'm pulling a blank right now. The brain.
From Dusk Till Dawn. He was Sex Machine. I believe he had the little gun in the crotch.
Codpiece.
Yes, the gun crotch codpiece. He was that guy. He was also in Machete. He played Osiris on Monopor, but he was also in Dawn of the Dead, and he played so many roles, but he's more famous for his work on special effects on many, many horror films. He's also, of course, played parts in many films as well. He's directed some films as well. That's just Tom Savini. Then we have Greg Nicotero. He's straight off of one of the Dead films that he did, Day of the Dead, I think it was, in 1984. And he knew, or he was talking in this documentary about how he and Tom Savini were friends, because Savini had worked with Zito, the director, previously in one of those films. And they go on in this documentary talking about how they basically dropped what they were doing to move down to Florida. Greg Berger was also working on this film as well. And he has an extensive list of IMDb as well. Their work together on this film was very funny, especially how they went about doing it. Greg Berger also worked on the Orville recently, Kyle. He's had this work, Lone Survivor, Kill Bill Volume 1, Chronicles of Narnia. This is just Greg Berger, by the way. For a lot of people go, who's this guy? We know Tom Savini and Greg Nicotero, but they were talking about how they basically, they didn't have a house to live in. They were given a hotel room, and they basically worked on all of this. They brought in all their extra stuff that they didn't use in the previous film for the horror film to help work on this film. And two of the more notable things that they worked on in this film was what you just mentioned, Lacey, was the the knife through the hand scene. And they talked about how they did that. But the big scene that you don't really notice is when the couple is killed on the beach. They needed some rubber bodies that look lifelike so that the terrorist can stomp on them as they are storming the beach. And they talk about how they had a funny scene where it was very hot in Florida, and they had the big rubber body mock-up, and they had left it outside in the heat, and it had melted through the the deck chair. What do you call those folding chairs? The sun chairs, whatever they were, and they were talking about how they had to negotiate, together to work for the money that they would make per week. And seeing these guys talk about their adventures working together on this film and how this was a big deal for them. It was a big motion picture at the time for them with Chuck Norris, who was at the top of his game. Highly recommend the documentary and check about it. Did you guys know these guys worked on this film?
I had seen it in an interview with
You lied!
No. When Walking Dead was first hitting big and he was a big part of that, he was getting a lot of interviews. And he actually mentioned being part of the Invasion U.S.A.
Oh, okay, cool. All right.
And then, it makes sense because just with all the blood work alone in Invasion USA, and that you go back and you look at that. Wait, this Hall of Fame trio was on the special effects for this movie.
Yeah.
One of those oddball canon films things to where it's like with Firewalker. How did they get Lou Gossett Jr. to do Firewalker? But there's always something in every canon film. It's whether it's an actor or a director or producer or special effects person. It's like you're scratching your head like, wait, how did this happen? How did this?
Well, they were up and coming still. They weren't, they weren't being paid a lot of money, but they were making names for themselves. This is probably available somewhere else on YouTube, I'm guessing, but check out Canon Carnage, the makeup effects of Invasion USA interview with these three legends here. Totally worth checking. Lacey, did you know who these guys were?
Oh yeah, well I knew Greg Nicotero again from Walking Dead. The thing is, there was an interview that he did, and I can't remember if it was on a Walking Dead season or not, but he was talking about how transitioning from makeup artist to then getting up to like key makeup and all these things, because his first like 10 or 12 movies, with the exception of Invasion USA, they were all sequels, and like not just 2s and 3s, but like 4s and 5s. I think he did Nightmare on Elm Street 5 or something, and like
the Day of the Dead films,
like that. And so Evil Dead 2, and then and it kind of like, as he kept getting these sequels, they got like further into the sequels. And so there was a time where he was like nervous that he was going to end up just being the sequel guy.
Yeah.
I know about Savini and Greg.
I just found that bit of news. I had to share that, so that was good.
Cool.
The next category you always like to talk about, especially with these canon films, is you took them out with what? Favorite weapon or inanimate object used as a weapon, or as Clarence Boddicker from RoboCop would say, guns, guns, guns. And of course, we got to talk about the two Uzis that are famous, and it's in the poster with Chuck Norris in the famous scene. He carries dual Uzi pistols and a custom DeSantis shoulder rig while engaging the terrorist. The Uzi pistol with a 25-round magazine, 9mm. He uses very effectively, and I love what I love about that is that when he runs out of ammunition in the famous ending scene, he carefully lays them down at his feet like they're his babies. He just doesn't, how some people, when they empty a gun, they just kind of throw it to the side. I think you've actually brought that up, Lacey. Instead of trying to find ammunition for it, it's like one of those things like, you could still use the thing as a blunt object, but no, he carefully lays them down at his feet.
And I love this because this shows that he put him down and he looked where he was. And then he kept going. He intends 100% to go back and get those later.
Yep.
Because guns are expensive.
Yeah.
Stop throwing them at people when you run out of bullets. You can get more bullets. Guns are expensive. What are you doing? Stop it.
Kyle, you have quick thoughts on the you have quick thoughts on the Uzis?
Like I said earlier, it's one of the most classic 80s action looks ever. And he may have laid down the Uzis, but Mel Gibson picked him up, and he was in some ad advertising Air America saying, "Excuse me, is that an Uzi?"
Well, some other weapons that are seen that are very 80s action, of course, is the famous M60 machine gun. Rambo used it, of course. And it's seen mounted on military vehicles and static post mounts. At one point, a soldier fires the gun free-handed. So we see that there. Both the terrorist and the U.S. Army guys use it as well. And Kyle, as you teased earlier, I said, no, you could not bring a law rocket to the podcast. One of the most famous 80s used weapons, of course, it was used in the military a lot. It's an anti-tank weapon. It's used throughout the film in the flashback. Rostov prepares to use it before being thwarted. Also uses twice as Hunter during the final battle. Hunter uses one to destroy Rostov's helicopter. And when he took out a terrorist, he killed it. Used it against Rostov himself. So yeah, one of the most iconic grenade launches there, Kyle.
Yeah, I have thoughts on this, but I have thoughts on this, but I'm going to wait till we get to another segment.
Okay, that's cool. All right. Next weapon we have here is, now this one is a weird one, guys. This is a custom job and realistically was not used well at all. This is the custom underbarrel grenade launcher that you see used throughout the film. I think maybe they only had one or two of these. And they just wanted to keep using it because it looked cool. Mounted under both an M16 and M16 SP1 slab-slided rifles as an unusual custom grenade launcher seen used by the terrorists throughout the film. In the final battle, one is used by Rostov, one on a slab-slided SP1 rifle and three-prong flash hider. Another is used by Matt Hunter on an M16 rifle with a bird cage flash hider. That's gun stuff I don't know. It is a simple tube that is attached to the barrel via cutting holes in an A1 style handguard and has a pistol grip frame to hold on to, which was narrowed down to a Walther P38. The weapon has been modified after the MX148 grenade launcher. These only hold one grenade at a time, guys. And the scene where Matt Hunter uses the grenade when he knows the terrorists are hiding on the left and the right side of the other side of the wall, and he, in seconds, shoots both holes. Yeah, you can't do that.
That's my favorite weapon for that reason, because it's absolutely unreal, like 100% not a thing.
And they don't show him reloading the rocket launcher when he's blowing up the houses. It's just like has unlimited. They do the cannon thing where they don't reload. The only time you see really good reloading in this is when Matt uses when he reloads his Uzis, because those have such a high fire rate. There's times where it's like, he could use a reload, but you actually see him reloading, especially when he sticks the clips down his pants and you see him pulling them out and then he checks and stuff like that. But this is your favorite, Lacey?
Yeah, that's going to be the one I like.
Okay, gotcha. All
because it was, I mean, it's just silly. I mean, this is masculinity in iron or whatever you make it from. Like, there's no reason for, like,
it's a cannon gun. Let's just put it that way. It's a cannon gun. So. It reminds me actually of that custom job gun that they used in Long Kiss Goodnight, that one bad guy, that custom grenade / thing that we talked about in the film. So yeah,
it's a midlife crisis when you can't afford the Porsche and you can't get the girl. That's what that is.
All right, one of my favorite segments in these action films is the Sean Bean Award for the best death scene, guys. And I have some nominations here. And honestly, I think the best one takes place in the same scene. There was a lot of crotch shooting in this film, and Rostov does them both, especially in this scene here. I'm showcasing the drug dealer scene with Billy Drago, and then he does it again when the guy gives him the message about what Matt Hunter says, and he shoots him in the crotch. So Billy Drago just goes around shooting people in the dick. I'm just going to say this, but you get two great scenes here because he shoots Billy Drago in the crotch while the other girl, the cocaine sniffer girl, is in shock from having the cocaine straw go through her nose into her brain. And then after he kills Dragoff with the ball shooting, he throws her out the window. The other nomination I have, of course, is at the end. You get Rostov getting killed with the grenade launcher of the gun that Lacey loves so very much. Kyle, please chime in here. What is your thoughts?
There was a period of the 80s where there was no greater honor than to die in a movie in one of two ways. Death by ninja or death by rocket launcher.
This is true.
And in this particular movie, death by rocket launcher is the honorable way to go. And it is one of the greatest final scenes. It's one of the greatest
time to die.
Yeah. And it was from about 82 to 87. Death by ninja, death by rocket launcher.
Lacey, what is your favorite death scene?
It's the rock. So when you see the actual, I guess, dummy come out the window, it's fantastic. The one of the legs from like the knee down just kind of goes.
Thank you, Tom Savini and Nicotero.
I mean, and the thing is, it's not. They blew it up to a point where a few pieces were visible, and it wasn't gory because it's, you can see the light from the explosion. It's not bloody, which is nice, which is very un-Nicotero and Savini. Yeah. But then you get like the couple of pieces, right, where you can tell it's a foot, you can tell it's a hand or whatever. Yeah. And so it's realistic without being gross. Yeah. And I like that.
That is a great point. Yeah, that's something they probably wouldn't have cut on the TV broadcast. If you look closely, you would see the parts, but without being. That's a great point, Lacey. Well said. My favorite is the drug dealer crotch coke sniffing girl. That one's just brutal. Rostov is great, and he has a fetish for shooting people in the balls, which I will keep saying.
Poor Billy Drago's balls. Poor
I know, right?
Billy Drago's balls. Aw.
All right, next we have, if you were a non-speaking extra on the set, what scene would you want to be in? I have some nominations. I have, of course, the famous mall scene. There's others you could do too, but I'm just going to start with the mall scene there. But Lacey, where would you have liked to have been an extra while scenes were being filmed?
I'm on one of those boats, man. I want to be either on the boat with John Eagle, or I want to be at.
And then when you clarify, you have to say what boats. Are you talking about the landing party boats? Are you talking about the
airboats? The big fans, the airboats.
Okay. So you're one of the terrorists or what?
No, I mean, whatever. Don't care. I want to be on one of those boats. Also,
okay, hold on. You're breaking the rule a little bit here because there's really no extras in that scene. So this is the extras part.
Sure, there are. There are 3 people on each one of those boats, and you only see 2 of them or 3 of them actually do something.
You mean the terrorist boats?
The terrorist boats, sure.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Or I would like to be somewhere. The reason I want to be there is because I want to meet the armadillo. Like, because during that scene, when you're off, like waiting for the scene to start, like there will be access to a super adorable baby armadillo.
That's true.
I need to meet the armadillo.
Yeah, we need to know if the armadillo is okay. I don't remember.
I have named him, and his name is Gregory. And
Gregory. Okay.
I would love to.
I love that. Gregory the armadillo.
I need to meet the armadillo.
Kyle, where would you like to be an extra in?
I want in the mall. I want to see that go down.
That's my that's my pick too.
Yeah, I mean, come on. You're talking about one of the greatest action scenes in 80s
Okay, keep this in mind too. And I'm glad you actually said what you said, Lacey, because as an extra, you want to have a story. Mm-hmm. And I feel like both yours would have great stories if you were an extra.
Mm-hmm. The thing is,
would you like to be anywhere near specifically in the mall, or just in the mall anywhere? Because you want to try to be in the background. You want to try to be seen if you can. Lacey put herself to where she would be seen. Where would you be seen in the mall, Kyle?
I'd be seen probably checking out the Nissan truck and jumping in the back of it, not realizing that I was going for a ride.
There's another reason I always pick some of the smaller scenes, and that's because when you have a scene like a mall or a concert or something like that, the extras are kept far away. Like they're kept in extras holding. You never have a chance to like meet anybody, talk to anybody that's going to be like actually like a person, a named person in the film, right? You don't have a lot of chances to actually interact. So when you pick something where there's fewer people, they don't take you off set and throw you in a trailer and make you wait for an hour and a half between scenes. You actually get to like hang out for a minute, talk to somebody. Usually the cast is really nice. They're asking you where you're from. They're talking about your kids, whatever. Yeah.
That's a good reason. That's a good reason. So I always start these movies right when we start recording, and I was hoping that we would get this length about, of this film. Well, right now the credits are playing. So that means we're having a good time, and we got a lot more to talk about. But we are getting down towards the last part of the show here with some categories here. And the first one is, if you're friends with the on-set prop master, you're an extra, what are you taking home? Mine are the Uzis. I mean, come on, it's the Uzis. But if you got another nomination, Kyle, what you got?
I'm with you. It's the Uzis. The Uzis are the most iconic thing from this film, and I mean, we know Lacey's taking home Gregory.
Yeah, I was going to say, can I have the armadillo? If I can take the armadillo.
You would have adopted the armadillo. That's a great call.
Absolutely.
I like
100%. I would have adopted the armadillo.
I love that. That's that. Yeah, I love that. Because I was thinking about that watching them like, oh, the armadillo's okay. So,
right? Oh.
So this we've added to the repertoire of thing here, and this is Lacey's suggestion. I love this. I've added a little extra thing to it though. So this is the Lacey Adderhole question. Who would you have lunch or dinner with between takes or at the wrap party? And then I added this in, or who would you avoid? So Lacey, you get first shot.
I think I probably would have avoided the girl, the reporter,
the newscaster.
Okay. Yeah, no, not the newscaster. Monica Kaufman is actually really nice. I've met her. She's super sweet.
Okay, then who?
I'm talking about the reporter, the female reporter, the one who yells at people, and that's all she does.
That's what I was talking about.
Prophet. Yeah.
Yes,
that's who I meant.
Right. I'm sorry. Newscaster is Monica Kaufman. Reporter, that's how they were listed. I thought you were talking about Monica Kaufman.
No, talking about the reporter. So you would avoid her.
Well, just because I didn't enjoy her, and it's hard to like be positive and be like, oh, it's like, you have a baby, yay, in a bar or whatever. So I think that the person I would want to have lunch with or have a beverage with is Billy Drago, man. Like that guy has some stories and he is legit, like wicked smart, but also like a little bit, right? And so I think his conversation, because he doesn't follow the same lines of communication as other people. Like if you've ever seen him in an interview, like you just give him a topic and 3 hours later you're talking about like Vietnam or something, and you're just like,
like so you guys will get along famously.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Good call, Kyle. Yeah. Who would you have dinner with between takes or at the wrap party, or who would you avoid?
Okay, so this is actually, there's three answers to this. So at some point I'm having lunch or something with Chuck because it's Chuck. But at the wrap party specifically, I'm hanging out with my producers. Come on, guys. That's where the real party's at with Menahem and Yoram. Those boys knew how to party. So you're
the
doing
Go-Go
the rap
boys.
party.
You would hang out with them at the rap party.
I'm doing the rap party with the Go-Go boys. I'm avoiding
Shmuley. Don't forget Shmuley.
I don't think Shmuley would be there because he wasn't he didn't direct this film.
We don't know.
I would actually probably avoid Richard Lynch because he just is creepy and scary looking in this movie.
Kyle, speak up. I'm having trouble hearing you in your mic now.
I said I would avoid Richard Lynch because he's just really kind of creepy.
Yeah. I would avoid actually all the terrorists, but I think that Billy Drago, Lacey, you've made a case because both Billy Drago and both Richard Lynch were in Highlander episodes, which I thought was interesting. But I'm sitting down with Chuck because I got to pick his brain because I had questions about ninjas and he would be able to answer them for me. So that's what I'd be talking about. But I love the idea of the rap party with the Go-Go Boys, the producers. Because I don't know if at the time I would have realized how important they were to it. And at the time we would be young, but if we could go back and hang out with them, I think that's a great call, Kyle. Well
the only thing that would be kind of scary would be probably, and somehow you'd end up consuming a lot of illegal substances.
Oh, I'm sure there's cocaine somewhere. Yeah, definitely.
But I will say that, talking about Richard Lynch, I think that because he's such a good villain, he's probably a teddy bear in real life, though. Like he's probably just the sweetest guy ever in real life.
Usually they are, but
mean,
he scares the crap out of me the way he looks and the way so. I think this next category is pretty obvious. New category, not anymore, but Vanilla Ice, Cool as Ice award to the most dated thing or person in this movie. It's Chuck Norris and his outfit, I would have to say. And you mentioned his mullet too, Lacey.
Yeah, it's the hair. And also, this is not appropriate, I understand. But he is tucking at a level that drag queens can't accomplish in those jeans.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's packing, but it's not visible. Those jeans are so tight. I am impressed. Like
I'm sure he's had to
easily.
I'm sure he's had practice with all of his martial arts because I'm sure he might be wearing some special underwear to protect himself, maybe. And
dance belt action, sure. Yeah. But those pants are the quintessential 80s situation. Also, having an armadillo, very 80s.
Kyle?
So obviously this is the winner, but come on, the Nissan pickup is such an 80s pickup. Let's
It
be
is.
honest here.
Yes, it is. That was like the cool, like the rich kids had that truck.
The KC lights, all that stuff. That it was so the 80s vehicle type of truck. Martin McFly would have been proud.
Yeah.
All right. This goes into the Titanic I'm King of the World career moment. Which actor in this movie was the top of their career? Any other trend-worthy, news popular thing? The answer is Chuck Norris. He was, in the middle of the canon renaissance here. He was their lead star. He had so much pull in this film. He came up with the idea. And I have a picture here of all the other stuff that he's been doing since Octagon and all the other action films with Canon, and it's amazing. And a couple of these bleed into the 90s. Of course, the Octagon was in the late 70s. It's the answer is Chuck Norris. Unless you could say Mannheim and Menahem and Golan, they as well, but a lot of people in the masses didn't know who they were. Everyone knew who Chuck Norris was, Kyle.
I'm going to say this is the first apex mountain for Chuck Norris, or King, because I think he has a bigger one. I think it's Walker. I think the apex.
Oh yeah,
where he hits is Walker, especially because now we're into the internet and all the internet memes and all of those kind of things. I think that's a bigger period for him as far as international.
But we have those internet memes because of this Chuck Norris,
right?
Know? Yeah,
right. But I think just as far as international recognition, I think he's more universally recognized during the Walker run than he is now in the 80s, where he's at this point, because of the action film stars know about stuff, but I don't think he has the international recognition that he would once Walker was well established.
Yeah.
Lacey, your thoughts? Is the answer Chuck?
I think the answer is Chuck. I think Richard Lynch was probably at the top of his game at this point. I think this was, he had probably a half a dozen like really hardcore bad guys.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if I almost think that he probably retired early or something, because he kind of just like disappeared. I don't think it was a matter of like not getting rolled. I think he decided
he had a 90s role of episodic television villain stuff, but you're right. I'm glad you actually reminded me of something, Lacey. I think if it weren't for Richard Lynch's performance in this movie is not nearly as good and resonates with us, because he was so good.
Yeah, your good guy's only as good as your bad guy is bad. Like that's the perfect example.
He was so good in this film. Yeah. All right.
Super cool.
Let's wrap things up here. Anybody got a hot take on this? I don't know if you were saving one, Kyle. You kind of teased it earlier. What was it?
Basically, I think this was the movie that kind of changed Chuck Norris's movie career and the approach he took with his films after this film. Like I said earlier, he's quoted as saying, "This movie was a lot." And after I looked at the edit and saw how much we actually did, it was a lot. And I think it really changed you really see the violence change in his films. They're not this brute. Yes, he still does Delta Force and a few other things, but this is probably the most brutally violent film Chuck Norris ever did.
And adding to that, Kyle, I'm going to add that this film, and I would say Red Dawn, are probably the most scariest what if scenarios of all time. And maybe, you could take that to the Man in the High Castle TV series of, alternate reality, The Handmaid's Tale, stuff like that this really hit home and was one of the great action films, of course, but one of the scariest scenarios of all time of actual invasion. And we were back to back 2 movies about it right away. I think most people would say that Red Dawn is the extreme because it's probably the more realistic of what happens. And, Chuck Norris is the more kind of like entertaining. Yes. Cause he's the star and, he's going to live, but it was on our fears. It was like the hot take moment is this could happen, guys. And it did to a certain degree. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that Handmaid's Tale is where you hit the nail on the head, because we're living that right now.
Yeah.
Or we're very close to it.
Yeah, exactly. So the other question is, what happens next as we start to wrap this up, guys? What if remake, reboot? Now we almost had a sequel to this, guys, and the sequel would have been Avenging Force, but that didn't happen. And there was two. I don't know. I did not put it in the slides if I remember correctly here. Yeah, here we go. Chuck Norris, Matt Hunter is back in Night Hunter. Well, then they changed it. Michael Dudikoff is a Night Hunter. Well, it turned out that there was differences. Stuff didn't happen. We did not get it. Avenging Force went to Michael Dudikoff, and of course, Steve James. So Avenging Force was originally written as a sequel to this film, with Chuck Norris returning as the role of Matt Hunter. When he was uninterested, the role was rewritten to be a younger version. It was given to rising canon star Michael Dudikoff instead. Despite sharing the same main character name, the finished film was no longer truly a sequel or a prequel to the earlier film, but it stood on its own in a standalone film. Avenging Force came out the following year in 1986. Good action film, by the way. It's about a senator who is targeted by a right-wing paramilitary group. His pal, former CIA agent and martial artist, tries to help him. The group kidnaps the agent's sister and tries to hunt them down. The most dangerous game style setting, basically. Shmuley, Sam Furstenberg, was a director for Avenging Force. Steve James Booth also co-star in this. The movie was released in Israel as The American Ninja 2, which caused American Ninja 2 to be released as American Ninja 3, and so on. In fact, it is in Israel. There are 6 movies with the American Ninja series title in there. So there you go. I don't know if you guys have seen this film. It's a decent, good action film, but that would have been the sequel. So my question to you guys, and Lacey, this is where I come back around to you from earlier in this episode. Mm-hmm. What would you have liked to have seen as you were scripting either this film and then maybe led into a sequel?
Okay, so first I'm going to answer what happens next. 5 minutes later, he gets in the car, he drives back down to Florida, and he finds Gregory. That's the next thing that happens. That is
but he stops to pick up his Uzis first.
Yeah.
No, I mean, maybe he has those shipped. I don't know. He's not as concerned with the Uzi as he is with his armadillo, because that's the situation. When it comes,
I love the head cannon. That is great.
Right, but no. So when it comes to screenwriting versus screen, let's see. I've been a script doctor as well as a screenwriter, so I think that if it was screenwriting, this movie would not have been anything like it is. There would have been so much more research put into like how things work, because that's what you do as a screenwriter. When you get your degree in 2010 as opposed to 85, I'm sure if I had gotten the degree in the 80s, there would have been different parameters, right? But if someone had given me this script and said, what do you think? Do a treatment for it. I think I probably would have gotten through about page 13, about 13, 14 minutes in. I would have rearranged a few things, and then the rest of it would have been thrown away and then rewritten.
Okay.
Now, that's not to say it's not a good, fun, action adventure, whatever, but I would have put all that connective tissue back in. I would have given everyone more detail, a little bit more backstory. You can do backstory without having to take too much time. You just have to work it in.
Gotcha.
And I think, and it was an hour and 47 minutes film.
Yeah. Well, apparently there was more in there, so I would have been curious I would have been curious if you would have seen the extra scenes that they had taken out, the character development, and going, what, let's keep that, but let's change this, change that.
Because some of the things that are in it currently don't fit in the movie anymore because of the connective tissue that's been removed. So
before they cut it down, the original cut was 2.5 hours.
Right. Yeah, so realistically, without the connective tissue, if you could have started this film after the Billy Drago scene, because that first sequence with the boat and the cocaine and all that never comes back up.
Yeah.
That whole
no, not necessarily. If you're paying it, hold on, let me make my case. That's where they get the cocaine that they smuggled, and they use the cocaine to buy the weapons. That's right, why that scene is in there.
But you don't need to see that, because the rest of the connective tissue is later. Like there's no.
Yeah. But you also need a scene though that, I mean, if it did start with the Billy Drago scene, you would see the brutality that is Richard Lynch's character. But you're not introduced to the other. you're not introduced to the other terrorists though that follow him along in this journey that you eventually get their comeuppance. But I see your point. That's a good point.
But from just from a screenwriting standpoint, when you see something in the first scene, you got to use it in the last scene. Like there's scenes. When you see a gun, you got to use the gun. When you see the shoes at the door, you got to know who was in them.
That's a good point. A little connective tissue throughout the film there. Yeah, that's a good point. Kyle.
That's kind of a staple response for all canon films. So this is not a bad thing. It's just a different thing.
Kyle, your thoughts on the possible sequel. What do you think, and what would you have done?
See, I look at it, you have to look at it through two different lenses, because if you're talking about like, okay, I'm making a sequel or a remake today, this is a very different movie because of the way our world is and sensibilities and things of that nature. If I'm just doing a straight up sequel in the 80s, it's real simple. You either have somebody who's coming after him.
When I bring up sequel, that's what we're talking about here.
Okay.
Because this
I just want
to happen. Yeah.
Talk about remakes or something like that too. If you're doing the sequel in the 80s, you either have a totally different bad guy with a totally different setting that has a history with Matt as well from his CIA days, because that's kind of what I think the theme of the character would be. Is you're going through. This is obviously a CIA agent who is very up there and had some pretty big dealings. So you either go that route, or you maybe go a route where something happens to Matt, and maybe he has a son or a younger brother or something we don't know about that they introduce in, and we get some of that backstory as the movie's going along, and they're going to rescue Matt. And I think you could go with that too, to expand the universe out a little bit.
Yeah, and I feel like the subplots that they cut out in the first film could have been brought back to a sequel to humanize Matt a little bit more, and make you realize he's not just this, badass guy. So, yeah.
I think the sequel was made. It was called Ruskies, and it was in 1987 with Whip Hubley and River Phoenix. And it was
that's a deep cut. That's a hard movie to find, by the way.
It was adorable. It was a great movie.
I found that movie on Laserdisc. It is tough to find. Yeah. I need to rewatch that. It's been a long time. So. Well, guys, let's go ahead and wrap things up. Let's get your final thoughts here. So let's get your final thoughts here, guys. Of course, this is the Canon Films Retrospective. We're, of course, talking about Invasion USA. And please check out what we have already done, which is, of course, American Ninja 1 and 2, Firewalker, and Cobra. Coming up is Bloodsport and Masters of the Universe. Guys, give me your final thoughts and how we can reach you on the Fandom Podcast Network or elsewhere. Lacey, start with you.
I am on the, Letterboxd. That's super fun. And I'm on Discord on a few channels. I'm here a lot.
And tell us what are you on those?
I am Lacey Pants.
Lacey Pants. There you go. All right.
2 E's, no Y. Lacey Pants. And as far as final thoughts, just a fun romp with lots of questions about plot.
It's true. Kyle, what are your final thoughts on this movie and how we can reach you?
Okay, well, as far as final thoughts on this film, this is one of the most iconic Chuck Norris films, period, because you have that amazing image of him holding the 2 Uzis. I think it is at the peak of his 80s action filmness, as shall we say. And also, I think it's maybe there is a contention that this is the flagship movie for Canon Films. Some people might say it's American Ninja. Some people might say it's Bloodsport. Some others
that's a good call there. Yeah.
So I think this, no matter what, this
was the most profitable. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah.
I think I think honestly, maybe outside of maybe truthfully Bloodsport or Master of the Universe, maybe the most well known in the general public.
Yeah, Bloodsport's been getting a lot of nostalgia hits lately. So yeah,
I kind of think Over the Top had a fairly
Over the Top had a moment, but I think in the lexicon of it all, I think Invasion USA is right up there. But that's just my thought. As far as where you can find me on the social media, of course, you can find me all over the Fandom Podcast Network. You can find me on Twitter and on Blue Sky at AKyleW. And you can find me on Instagram and Threads at AKyleFandom. And Kevin, I just got a delivery here. I got to start working on something here soon because I got a note written in blood, something about a kumite. Do you know anything about that?
Ooh, Kumite. Yeah, we'll talk about that later, but watch out, man, because yeah, I don't know if I'll be seeing you back. So you'll be coming back for that. I love this movie so much, guys. It's right there with several of others from that I mentioned. Of course, I love ninjas, and of course, there's the Octagon. But there's just something about this one I love visiting, and it's such a sign of the times for so many reasons, and it brings back a nostalgia that I have, not just for action films in general, not just for Chuck Norris, not just for canon, but just 80s. And I remember my wife saying this to me when we covered, I believe it was Time Warp 1985, and this is when we were just doing the audio podcast. But she did mention it when we did the Tough Turf podcast, which came out. The movie came out in 1985, of course, starring James Spader. One of our favorite movies that we bonded on. She says 1985 was the most 80th of the 80th of the 80th of the 80s decade. And when you look at all the films that came out in 1985, there, especially the fashion, what was popular, the Nissan truck, Kyle, great call out on that. So many little things like that was just such an 80s thing. And that's what I love about returning to these 80s films and talking about the canon side of things as well. It just reminds me of the malls, the thing that you brought up, Lacey, about best mall action shootout. That would be a great topic one day. I mean, you nailed it there. And that's what I love about Invasion USA. It reminds me of all that for the reasons too. So please, if you're watching on the listening to the podcast, please subscribe to us here on the Fandom Podcast Network. You can see the video. We'd love that. We're trying to always hit the next plateau when it comes to subscribers, as you guys know how it is. Give us a review and a like. You can also find the Couch Potato Theater at fpnet.podbean.com. That's where we have our audio podcast. Fandom Podcast Network is, of course, on Facebook, Instagram, X, and on Blue Sky. My name is Kevin. You can find me on all of the socials at Spartan_Phoenix, Blue Sky at Spartan Phoenix. Give us support over on TeePublic. You can get your Couch Potato Theater there. T-shirt. We have T-shirts and logos from all of our other programming here on the Fandom Podcast Network. Lacey, thank you as always. Really appreciate you. Thank you. Kyle, thank you so very much for joining us here for Couch Potato Theater. Invasion USA. Let us know what you think in the comments. Shoot us some information, mail. Let us know. We just want to hear from you guys. So, but join us next time for this Kumite, Kyle. Yes.
Kumite.
There you go.
If I remember correctly, there might even be an ogre in that movie, if you catch my reference.
Yeah, I did catch a reference, and I love it. Yeah. Nerds! We're all movie nerds here. We love it, and we hope you guys enjoy this. We'll see you guys next time on the couch for Couch Potato Theater, and, of course, celebrating 1980s canon film retrospective. We'll see you guys next time.